Tonight, we step away from the noise of the day and into 3 simple stories. These are narratives passed down through generations, quiet in their delivery, yet profound in their reach. They are gentle reminders that even the smallest actions possess the weight to alter the course of everything. Find a comfortable position. Release the tension in your shoulders. Let your breathing slow until it matches the rhythm of the room. As you settle in, prepare to clear your mind of the clutter that gathered since the sun rose. We are going to explore 3 distinct paths, each holding a mirror to the human experience. We begin with a lesson on mercy, move through the value of persistence, and conclude with the weight of our own words. Take a deep breath. Let your thoughts grow still and allow your focus to narrow toward the sound of my voice. The world outside this space can wait. The lessons ahead are waiting for you. Let the stories begin. The first story unfolds in the heart of a warm, humid jungle. Beneath the shade of a sprawling tree, a mighty lion lay in deep slumber. His chest rose and fell in a slow, rhythmic cadence, the only sound in the heavy, still air. Nearby, the brush rustled. A tiny mouse, moving with frantic energy, darted across the lion's massive paw. The reaction was instantaneous. The lion awoke with a roar that vibrated through the ground and shook the leaves from the branches above. In a blur of motion, his claws pinned the small creature. The mouse trembled, its heart hammering against the lion's skin, trapped in the grip of a predator. It looked up, eyes wide, and squeaked a desperate plea. "Please, let me go. One day, I may repay your kindness." The lion stared down, his golden eyes narrowing. He let out a deep, rumbling laugh that echoed through the surrounding brush. How could a creature so small offer anything of value to a king of the jungle? Yet, as he looked at the fragile life beneath his weight, the tension in his muscles eased. He lifted his heavy paw, breaking the hold, and watched as the mouse scrambled back. Days drifted by under the canopy until one morning the silence of the jungle shattered. The lion stepped into a hidden trap. A hunter's net launched upward, hoisting him into the air with a violent jolt. He roared, a sound of pure frustration, and thrashed against the mesh. The thick, coarse ropes only tightened, biting into his limbs with every movement. He was suspended, helpless, his strength turned against him. He roared again, but the jungle remained indifferent. Then, a faint scratching sound emerged from the base of the tree. The mouse appeared, moving with steady, deliberate purpose. It did not hesitate. It climbed the tangled mess of fibers and began to gnaw. The mouse worked with rhythmic precision, strand by strand, severing the thick material. The lion watched, breath held, as the tension in the net began to fray. One rope snapped, then another. The remaining fibers gave way under the lion's weight, and he tumbled to the forest floor. He stood in the quiet, looking down at the small creature. No act of kindness is ever truly wasted, and even the smallest can change everything. The scene shifts from the dense jungle to a wide, sun-drenched meadow. Here, the pace of life felt different. A hare lived among the tall grasses, moving with a restless, frantic energy that left dust swirling in his wake. He was fast, he knew it, and he made sure everyone else knew it too. Whenever he passed the tortoise, who moved with a slow, heavy deliberation, the hare would stop, circle him, and let out a sharp, mocking laugh. The tortoise kept his head low, his feet pressing firmly into the soil, step by steady step. One afternoon, the hare's taunts grew sharper, his laughter echoing across the clearing. The tortoise stopped. He turned, his gaze fixed on the hare, and the meadow went quiet. The animals nearby paused, sensing the shift in the air. "Let us race," the tortoise said, his voice low and calm. The hare froze, then threw his head back in a burst of derisive amusement. He paced in a tight circle, his eyes bright with arrogance. "You against me?" The hare shook his head, still laughing, but he did not refuse. He agreed to the terms, his posture radiating a smug, hollow confidence. The signal sounded, and the hare vanished in a blur of motion. He shot forward, kicking up clouds of dust, his speed absolute and overwhelming. Within seconds, he had put a vast distance between himself and the starting line. He did not look back until he reached the shade of a sprawling oak tree. He stopped, panting slightly, and scanned the horizon. The tortoise was nowhere to be seen, a mere speck lost in the tall grass far behind. The hare let out a dismissive snort, his chest rising and falling with the rhythm of his own vanity. He found a patch of soft, cool grass, curled into a ball, and closed his eyes. The meadow grew quiet, save for the distant hum of insects. Meanwhile, the tortoise remained in motion. He did not look at the sun or the finish line. He focused only on the ground directly beneath his feet, left, right, forward. His pace never quickened, and it never faltered. He passed the spot where the hare lay sleeping, his expression unchanged, his rhythm unbroken. The hare remained motionless, lost in a deep, arrogant slumber, while the tortoise continued his steady, silent march. The gap between them began to close, not through speed, but through the relentless, quiet accumulation of steps. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long, thin shadows across the finish line. The tortoise reached the final stretch, his gait as rhythmic and unhurried as it had been at the start. He did not look left or right, he simply moved. Suddenly, a roar of noise broke the silence of the meadow. The hare bolted upright, his eyes snapping open to the sight of the crowd gathered ahead. He scrambled to his feet, his limbs tangling in his own haste. Panic surged through him. He saw the tortoise, just yards from the finish. The hare pushed off, his muscles straining, his breath coming in ragged, desperate gasps. He ran with everything he had, his legs a blur of motion, tearing through the grass. But the distance was too great. The tortoise placed one final steady foot over the line. The race was over. The hare skidded to a halt, his chest heaving, his ears drooping as the reality set in. He looked at the finish line, then at the tortoise, who stood motionless and composed. The meadow fell silent again. The lesson etched into the dirt. Speed without discipline is a hollow victory, and the steady, quiet effort is what truly defines the end of the road. The hills were silent, save for the occasional bleat of a sheep. The boy sat on a rocky outcrop, his hands idle, his gaze drifting over the empty, sun-drenched landscape. Boredom settled into his limbs like lead. He looked toward the village, then back at the grazing flock. He stood up, cupped his hands around his mouth, and screamed, "Wolf! Wolf!" The sound carried sharply through the valley, Below, the villagers dropped their tools, grabbed pitchforks, and sprinted toward the hill, their faces tight with alarm. They reached the summit, chests heaving, only to find the boy doubled over in laughter. He pointed at their frantic expressions, his amusement clear. The villagers glared, turned, and trudged back down the slope. The boy watched them go, then waited until the sun shifted. He did it again. "Wolf! Wolf!" Once more, the villagers abandoned their work, rushing up the incline with heavy, desperate strides. Again, they found nothing but the boy, who leaned against a tree, shaking with laughter. This time, the villagers did not just glare. They shouted, their voices sharp with irritation, and retreated slowly, their trust visibly thinning. The boy remained on the hill, watching the village return to its rhythm, oblivious to the fact that his game had stripped away the only safety net he possessed. The shadows beneath the trees lengthened, and then they moved. A grey shape detached itself from the brush, low to the ground, eyes fixed on the flock. The sheep erupted in a frantic, bleating mass, scattering in every direction as the predator lunged. The boy scrambled backward, his heels digging into the dirt, his breath catching in his throat. This was no game. He stood, his lungs burning, and screamed with every ounce of strength he possessed. "Wolf! Wolf! Please, help me!" The sound tore through the air, echoing against the distant village walls. Down in the valley, the villagers paused. A woman at the well heard the frantic plea, shook her head, and continued drawing water. The boy's voice cracked, raw and desperate, pleading for a rescue that would not come. He watched the village, waiting for the familiar sight of rushing figures, but the path remained empty. The threat closed in, the predator circling the remaining sheep. He was entirely, terrifyingly alone. The echoes of the hills fade, leaving only the quiet space of the present. 3 stories, 3 paths, 3 truths. We have seen the lion and the mouse, where a small act of mercy returned as a life-saving grace. We have walked the meadow with the tortoise and the hare, learning that steady, persistent effort outlasts the flash of unbridled speed. And we have stood on the hill with the boy, witnessing how the fragile thread of truth, once severed, leaves us standing alone against the dark. These are not merely tales of long ago. They are mirrors held up to our own lives. Kindness, no matter how small, ripples outward in ways we cannot always predict. Consistency, even when the pace feels slow, builds a foundation that talent alone cannot sustain. And truth, the most delicate of all things, remains the only bridge between us and the world. Tonight, as the day settles into shadow, let these lessons settle with it. Be the hand that offers mercy. Be the feet that keep moving, step by measured step. Be the voice that speaks only what is real. The stories are told, the lessons are clear, and the path ahead is quiet. Good night.